Let's take a look at the pathway of blood through the heart. Here's a heart. Here are the 4 chambers of the heart. The right atrium, and below it, the right ventricle. On the left side is the left atrium, and below it, the left ventricle. Blood from all parts of the body above the heart enters via the superior vena cava, and blood from all parts of the body below the heart enters via the inferior vena cava. This blood is deoxygenated and it enters the right atrium. It passes through the tricuspid valve and enters the right ventricle. The right ventricle then pumps it into the pulmonary trunk, which opens into 2 pulmonary arteries, each of which enters the lungs. At the lungs, the blood becomes oxygenated and turns red and returns to the heart via pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins, 2 sets of them, enter the left atrium. From there, the blood passes through the bicuspid valve and enters the left ventricle, from where it is pumped into the aorta. The aorta takes the oxygenated blood to all parts of the body. Let's review the pathway of blood through the heart. We start with the body, which brings deoxygenated blood back to the heart via the vena cava. The vena cava enter into the right atrium, and from there the blood flows into the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps the blood into the pulmonary trunk, and from the pulmonary trunk, the deoxygenated blood flows into the pulmonary arteries and on into the lungs. In the lungs, the blood gets oxygenated and returns to the heart via the pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins, which are red, enter the left atrium. From the left atrium, the blood flows into the left ventricle, which pumps the blood into the aorta that takes the blood to all parts of the body. Oxygenated blood reaches the body. Between the right atrium and right ventricle is the tricuspid valve. Between the right ventricle and pulmonary trunk is the pulmonary valve. Between the left atrium and the left ventricle is the bicuspid valve, and between the left ventricle and the aorta is the aortic valve. Let's take a look at a broad schematic of blood flow between the body, the heart, and the lungs. Deoxygenated blood leaves the body and enters the heart via the vena cava. From the heart, blood is pumped to the lungs via the pulmonary trunk and arteries. From the lungs, once the blood is oxygenated, it leaves via the pulmonary veins and goes back to the heart. The heart pumps that blood out via the aorta to the body to take oxygen and nutrients to the body. So here we have the vena cava in blue going from the body to the heart. From the heart to the lungs is the pulmonary artery. From the lungs back to the heart is pulmonary veins. And from the heart to the body is the aorta. The blood circulation going to and from the body is the systemic circuit, and the blood going to and from the lungs belongs to the pulmonary circuit.